Hi everybody. Aloha. Aloha to all my Ohana in Hawaii. How you guys doing? So the mainland is getting cold. Japan is not getting that cold yet. You can see I'm wearing my little jacket, but I wouldn't say it's short sleeve weather, but some people would. So yeah, it's getting a little more chilly and the leaves are changing, which is really, really pretty. And went to golf the other day. That was really nice with some people that I work with. And one of them is a leader in a company I work with. And he's actually the CEO, and I really respect him. And I learned a lot from him. And it reminded me of when I was working at a company called Space Design, and we were doing like a brand new kind, effort. So what happened was you had this totally Japanese company, okay, that was like, we're talking conservative Japanese real estate company that happened to be owned by Mr. Ezoe, who was the one who made Recruit, who was involved in this huge scandal called the Recruit scandal. And that's where I actually started working in Japan in Recruit in 1988. So he's the owner. And in like 1999, like right before 2000, he was saying, Japan is going to become more international. And he would travel around and go to like Hong Kong, New York, like that. And he would see this thing called serviced apartment, which is a furnished apartment, kind of like a hotel, with cleaning and all that. Has a little kitchen so that people who are here for maybe 2-3 months for work wouldn't have to stay 2-3 months in a hotel, which, I like hotels, but after 2 weeks or something, you start to feel a little like, somebody's coming in every day to clean, yeah? And you don't feel so much privacy. So he was like, okay, we're going to change everything. We're going to change the company name. We're going to make it called Space Design, which is, English sounding name. Well, it is English, Space Design. And now all of our customers are going to be non-Japanese who don't speak Japanese. So here's this real estate company that was doing real estate development, which means basically you build the building and then you sell the apartments to Japanese people. So you buy the land from Japanese people, you build the buildings with Japanese construction companies, and then you sell the individual apartments through your agent. So you have an agent who's selling to, again, Japanese people. So the entire cycle is Japanese language and people. And then there's nothing to do with hospitality. When you make the building, you try to make it like where somebody would want to buy it, but you don't actually have to deal with the end user, right? The actual person who buys it. So Ezoe-san was like, okay, we're going to switch everything up. We're going to be in the forefront of this change in Japan, and we're going to make serviced apartments, short-term rentals for non-Japanese. Turns out the only people that need that are people who don't speak Japanese, right? Because the only people that could pay $3,000 a month for a place like that would be people who are staying long-term in a nice hotel. And so why would they, if they spoke Japanese, they wouldn't be, called over to Japan to be on these international projects, right? So anyway, this company had to make a huge change. And nobody was ready. The mindset was not ready either. And I was lucky enough to get a call from Ezoe-san, and he's like, can you help me do this? What do you think? Is it a good idea? I was like, totally, it's a good idea. Like, even in Hawaii, people come and they might not be staying for years and years, so they want like a temporary place to stay that's nice. So I totally think it would work in Japan. So I said that, and I got involved, and I got to work with this most amazing entrepreneur mind guy who's much older than me. I guess he's about, could it be 30 years older than me? And he was the guy who made Recruit and had such a success in Japan. And one of the things, he's passed away now. One of the things that really stuck out to me was I would go to his office. It was very near where we had our office. And I would go over there to like have a meeting with him or something. He's like totally into, marketing and sales and stuff. And that's sort of what I like to do too. So I would walk into his office. he would be sitting in his chair listening to opera music, just in his own office, one small room, nothing gorgeous or anything like that, sitting there and just be thinking. Just thinking. And the other day when I was playing golf with the CEO of this company I work with now, this Japanese guy, he said, now my main job is thinking. I think that's my main job. And I thought, going forward for all of us, Millennial High School class of 84, anybody who's like around those times, or even, above us, like maybe my dad's age too, Jay Jarman, right? I think that especially in this corona situation, where we're going to have to sort of switch up things and change things, and the entire world is experiencing the same experience, right? How rare is that? So maybe the environmental problem of the warming of the earth and that stuff, everybody's kind of experiencing it, but you can still sort of say, oh, it's something in the future, it's not directly affecting me now. But with the coronavirus, it's like, boom, think, figure this out. And it just came on all of us like a heavy rain. Like in Hawaii, we get the sudden showers, right? And people in Florida get it too. I was in Florida once, and they have the thing called the squall. Is that what it's called? Maybe that's the wrong word. Anyway, so I've been in Japan too long, I can't even remember the English. So suddenly the sky is dark. Like during the day, it's such a beautiful day. And then the sky gets really dark, lightning, boom. And that's, lightning and rain. And I feel like, how they say raining cats and dogs, right? I think this coronavirus, COVID-19, is kind of like a sudden, really strong downpour that we all got. The whole earth, everybody. Like, I don't know if there must be some areas that are totally untouched, that are like really remote. But pretty much, if you're alive on this earth right now, you are most likely, indirectly or directly, maybe economically or anything, by this sudden event, COVID-19, right? And it was sort of like, not as scary and not as dangerous, but, when I was with Ezoe-san, as we were going through this huge change in the company, he was just like, okay, my job now is to think. I'm thinking. And what he was always thinking about was how to create a win-win, okay? How do you create a win-win relationship? How do you get balance, all right? And I have thought about that, like every day since that. So I would say in Japanese that he was win-win kankei no kochiku ga sugoi tokui. So the point of his ability at business was the fact that he was able to create a win-win relationship better than anyone I had ever seen before or been working with before. And I felt like creating the win-win relationship is actually like diplomacy, right? Because war is basically the breakdown of diplomacy. So diplomacy is similar to that. It's creating a win-win relationship where win-win means that both sides are winning. Now, winning is like a very divisive word right now, so I don't really even know we should use that. But the win-win concept is that neither side is sacrificing overly. Like both sides are sacrificing the same. And both sides, or 3 sides, or 4 sides, or 5 sides, are trying to find their common, connection. Like, where is the connection? From where can you start the conversation? Like, what do you have in common, right? And so I remember, this is maybe a little story about, first I'll tell you a funny story about Ezoe-san, is that one of the things that I really liked about him was that win-win. And so he would appear in meetings, like come to meetings suddenly. Like it didn't matter whether it's like very top level meeting or totally, with new recruit kind of meeting. He would show up because he felt like the win-win to actually create a win-win, it has to be inclusive and it has to be engaging. So you have to make sure everybody involved, whether it's your customer or your partner or somebody working in your company or whatever, everybody needs to be engaged. So in order to engage, he felt like, he has to share his thinking. So he's thinking, and then whatever he comes up with as like what would be the win-win, he wants to share it. So, but he was, Oji-chan, right? A grandpa already. So he would show up at the meetings and he would just like come in, shuffle in like this. He's a very small man, right? Come in, he's so smart. He would come in and he'd be listening to everybody. And, he always tried to say things with a smile. And I remember clearly it was like a after lunch meeting that he suddenly showed up to. And he was saying to everybody, people usually listen like this, right? Right? In a meeting, yeah? But he was like trying to say something. So he'd say, ano ne? No, he wouldn't say ano ne, sorry. Ano ne is very feminine. He would say, dewa desu ne, like that. Dewa desu ne, and he was pointing and he's smiling to make it like easier to hear, right? And he must have had miso soup for lunch because literally, in the miso soup you have wakame in there, the wakame pieces of seaweed. He had a full piece of solid wakame from the middle of his teeth here all the way to the side. Like you couldn't even see it in his mouth. It was such a large piece, totally like plastered on the outside of his teeth. Okay? And everybody was trying not to laugh, and everybody was trying to look at him and take him seriously what he was trying to say. But it was just so funny. And that was the kind of guy he was. So engagement was really important for him. Inclusiveness was really important for him. Thinking was the most important thing for him. And then also, as part of his effort to be inclusive, he would always ask the stupid question first. So he would always put it out there to break the ice. Like, it doesn't matter who's in the room. He didn't have any like put on airs, yeah? Like he wasn't sort of, I'm only going to say something smart. He was sort of like, I'm going to say the thing that is most, different, that is the most disruptive. And if I say the thing that's most disruptive, everybody will feel free to talk, right? So I really liked that about him, that he was always sort of willing to take that first step of be the dumb one, yeah? And I really try to do that. I mean, naturally I can do it. We won't go deeply into that, but naturally I'm very good at that, like saying stuff that isn't, that's a little bit disruptive and doesn't really, isn't on the point sometimes. But, that's something that I do, and I feel like that's my way of participating and offering my style to the group, like keep it light. Anyway, so coming back to the engagement part, right? So diplomacy, engagement, inclusiveness, correct? We in Hawaii are so good at that. We don't even know how good we are. I bet you guys, when you go to the mainland or when you go anywhere in the world, you see how separate everything is. But we don't really have that. Like we do have, okay, maybe wealthy people live in a certain area of Hawaii, or maybe there's a lot of military presence in a certain area of Oahu, so there would be more like haole people there, or maybe we do have something like that, but we don't have like, oh, well, this part of the school is where this certain group, I mean, maybe a little bit, but it wasn't like so separate. Like at least we had all the different kind of group people in the same school. Do you know what I mean? So other places like on the mainland, it's like way more separate. And I think that a lot of that comes from the fact that Hawaii people are so, mixed up in terms of race, right? Like, what are you is the question, yeah? Oh, I'm Filipino, Portuguese, Chinese, Hawaiian, and French. like suddenly out of the blue, right? Like I always felt so lonely because I only have like Scottish and Irish in me, yeah? So I was sort of like, I'm so boring, yeah? And when I was in preschool at Kalihi Union Church, we had just come from the mainland. So both my parents came from the East Coast, yeah? And I must have been 4 or 3. I think I was 3 actually, just turning 4, and started going to preschool at Kalihi Union Church. And I still have friends from there. So I went there. My parents come from the East Coast, where everything is very separate. I mean, we're talking totally separate. I mean, Virginia in the 1950s, like not good separate. So they came from that background, right? And here we are in Hawaii, all mixed up, melting pot, mixed up in a good way. So I came home from preschool one day and I told my dad and my mom, I said, Mom, it was a Friday. So you guys get the hint already, yeah? It was a Friday. So I came home and I said, Mommy, Daddy, I'm different, I want to be like other people. I feel different or something. I said something like that, like a 4-year-old would say. And my parents got really worried. They're like, oh, this is where we have to give her the inclusion talk, or that, people look different depending on their race and blah, blah, blah. I don't know how they were going to do it. I don't know if they could do it because that was still like early on, yeah? Like, how do you even explain, diversity? I don't even know if that was a key word at that time. Should have been, but I don't know if that was a key word at that time. But anyway, so they were getting like, oh, okay, now we got to say, the right thing. But basically what I said as a 4-year-old, I was like, everybody else was wearing a muumuu. Everyone else, it's Aloha Friday. And everybody else is wearing aloha shirt or a muumuu, like flowered dress. I don't know if I even knew the word. And I feel left out. I want to wear one of those. My parents were like, okay, let's go shopping right now. So they got me a muumuu so I could wear it every Friday on Aloha Friday. And you know what the connection there is? Aloha is the one that is common to everyone, right? Through aloha is where we can be totally inclusive and totally engaged. We can achieve engagement. And for anybody who's not from Hawaii, I'm sure you've heard the word aloha, but it means hello, goodbye, and of course, I love you. So it's a very deep sense of, the aloha spirit of like this fundamental love that everyone shares. Okay, so I have a fantastic friend who lives in Florida, and I respect her and I love her so much. We have so much in common. She's come to visit me in Japan. I just think she's one of the best people I know. And for this election, she voted differently than I did. Okay, so that's the point. I share so much in common with her. I share so much in common with you guys. We all share sadness when somebody passes away. We all share the worry of this whole COVID-19 thing. We all wonder, should we go out without a mask or with a mask? I mean, obviously with a mask is best. Please, with a mask. We all think, what is our future going to hold? I feel like everywhere you go, when I went to Africa, when I went to India, when I went to China, it's all the same. Fundamentally, people have the same feelings. It just so happens that the way you voted was different. So, like, the way you express your feeling is different. And so my son expresses it with a smile, even if he has wakame right on his teeth. He is there to engage. He shows up. That's the way he does it. Maybe in Hawaii we take some food to our neighbor. Or maybe we have potluck where we bring a whole bunch of, everybody cooks and we gather and we have a little party. Maybe nowadays with COVID, we write an actual letter, like a card. You send it to someone. I've done that a couple times and people really like it. Remember those things that you write, the Hallmark card, you can write one and you send it in the mail? People love that. Maybe you can connect with somebody on Zoom that you haven't been talking to recently. Or maybe you can have a conversation based on aloha with someone who voted differently than you. the fundamental feeling is the same, right? Worry about the current situation. I mean, look at the result of the election, like how it's so almost half-half, yeah? There's a lot of really smart people that you love who probably voted differently from you and have a different thought process than you. But just like, if we can find not the differences of, it's hard to explain, but for instance, when I was in preschool, I could have seen, oh, I'm Howley, everybody else is not Howley. Oh no, I can't fit in. No, no, no. Somehow as a 4-year-old, which is really pure, right? As a child, I saw everybody's wearing Aloha shirt. I don't have Aloha clothes. I would like to have Aloha clothes to fit in. Like, let's engage that way. Can we find something that we share that's common to both of us? And I think that the common thing we all share, that we all search for, and that we all have is aloha, right? And I think that in Hawaii, since we don't really, I mean, we tease each other all the time with the, all the kind jokes and stuff, right? We tease each other race-wise all the time. But it's coming from a place of like commonality, right? Because we're also mixed. You can't really, I mean, if I had like 6 or 7 races in me, it just goes beyond that whole like separation based on that stuff, yeah? So I think that all of us, you guys, Hawaii, all of us, it's time to think. It's time to sit back in your chair and think. Let's think about this. Let's figure this out. Let's think about how to reach out in a way that shares the common value of aloha to everyone. And let's figure out how we can possibly come together, And in that conversation with my friend, my really, really close friend, it's not in public, it's not on Facebook, it's nothing. It's like through Messenger or something. Slowly, we're starting to address, different ways that we think. And I understand why she would vote differently than me. Maybe she understands why I vote differently from her. It's okay. Because the fundamental love is there, right? The fundamental, respect for the other human is there. And that's what I learned, from my experience at Kalihi Union Church with the Aloha shirt, that I wanted Aloha wear because I wanted to connect with people based on Aloha, right? And when you think about it, that's what it was. And the CEO that I really respect that I work with now, and the CEO that I used to work for, Ezoe-san, thinking time, concentrating on the thinking. If we think about this stuff, this is, with all this self-isolation and all these things, lots of time to think, Let's try to think about engagement, inclusiveness, and how to engage and connect based on aloha. We can do it. We can definitely do it, especially the people from Hawaii. So maybe it's our chance, maybe we should take the lead. Like Obama took the lead, whatever, several years ago, yeah? But maybe we should all do it from our own little place. Reach out to our friends on the mainland, yeah? Reach out to our friends around the world. Share a little aloha. And you never know what could happen. We might come together more than you could ever imagine, because I really do think that love will always prevail. So, anyway, a little bit long today. I hope you guys are doing good. Thinking about you. Be safe. And have a wonderful, wonderful November. And happy Thanksgiving, too. Okay, bye-bye.